The sky had turned a deep shade of gray as Sarah drove down the deserted highway, her mind a whirlwind of worries. As a single mother of a 6-year-old daughter, life had become a balancing act of unpaid bills, long hours at her 2 jobs, and the constant fear that something, anything, might go wrong. And tonight, something did. A loud, sudden thump shook her out of her thoughts. The car jolted, her heart raced, and before she could react, the vehicle began to wobble unsteadily. Not now, she thought with rising panic. Sarah pulled over to the side of the road, the sinking realization settling in. A flat tire. With no spare tire, no money for a tow truck, and no one to call, Sarah sat there stranded, staring at the endless stretch of road ahead of her. Little did she know, this flat tire, this simple misfortune, would lead to an encounter with a mysterious stranger. A stranger whose unexpected act of kindness would not only fix her tire, but change her life in ways she could never have imagined. The highway was nearly empty, with only the occasional car speeding by in the distance. Sarah slumped over the steering wheel for a moment, feeling the weight of exhaustion settle deep into her bones. Her daughter Emma, seated in the back, had fallen asleep with her favorite stuffed bunny clutched in her small arms, blissfully unaware of their situation. Sarah sighed deeply, brushing away the strands of hair that clung to her damp forehead. She glanced at her phone, which, of course, had only a sliver of battery left. She quickly searched for a roadside assistance number, but the price listed on the website made her heart sink. With the bills she had piling up, rent, utilities, daycare, there was no way she could afford to pay for a tow truck tonight. Leaning back in her seat, Sarah felt the familiar tightness of anxiety building in her chest. She had no one to call for help. Since her divorce, she'd been on her own, doing everything she could to provide for Emma. Most days, she managed to hold it all together. But tonight, she felt utterly alone. Just as the first tear slipped down her cheek, headlights appeared in the rearview mirror. A car slowed down and pulled up behind hers. Sarah tensed, her mind immediately racing with fear. She didn't know what to expect. Was this person here to help? Or was this just another bad turn in an already terrible day? A figure emerged from the vehicle, a tall man in a dark coat. He walked toward her car with deliberate but calm steps. As he approached the window, Sarah instinctively locked the doors and cracked the window just enough to hear him. "Are you all right, ma'am?" His voice was deep but kind, carrying over the steady hum of the rain that had begun to fall. Sarah hesitated. I have a flat tire," she managed to say, her voice shaky. "I don't have a spare, and my phone's about to die. I don't really know what to do." The man nodded, glancing at the car and then back at her. His face, though partially shadowed by the dim streetlights, appeared sincere. "Mind if I take a look?" he asked. Sarah hesitated again, but something about the man's calm demeanor put her at ease. She nodded, and the man crouched down beside the car, inspecting the tire. After a few moments, he stood back up, wiping his hands on a rag he pulled from his pocket. "It's completely flat," he said, confirming her fears. "But I've got a spare in my car. I can put it on for you if you'd like." Sarah blinked in disbelief. "You do? But why would you?" The man smiled faintly. "Everyone needs a little help sometimes," he said simply. Still in shock, Sarah watched as the man retrieved a spare tire and a jack from his car. He worked efficiently, never asking for anything in return, just quietly fixing the tire as the rain continued to fall around them. The sound of the raindrops hitting the pavement mixed with the clanking of the tools creating a strange sense of calm in what had otherwise been a chaotic day. After about 20 minutes, the job was done. The man stood up, wiping his hands again. "That should hold up until you can get it replaced properly," he said. Sarah was overwhelmed with gratitude. "I don't even know how to thank you," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I don't have any money on me. I'm really struggling right now, and He cut her off with a gentle shake of his head. "Don't worry about it. Just take care of your little one," he said, nodding toward the back seat where Emma was still fast asleep. Sarah's eyes filled with tears again, but this time they were tears of gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered. "I don't even know your name." The man smiled softly. "Call me Daniel." With that, he turned and walked back to his car. Sarah watched him go, her heart swelling with appreciation. Who was this man? She wondered. She had never met anyone so kind, and yet, here he was, a total stranger, helping her out when she needed it most. As Daniel drove off, Sarah felt a sense of relief wash over her. She turned on the car, the new tire holding strong, and carefully drove home, still thinking about the kindness of the man who had appeared out of nowhere to help her. A week passed, and life returned to its usual pace. Sarah had managed to pay off some of her smaller bills, but the larger debts still loomed over her like dark clouds. Every time she sat down to budget, the numbers refused to add up. She was barely scraping by, and with Christmas approaching, she worried about how she would make ends meet. One morning, as she sat down with a cup of coffee to sort through the mail, she noticed an official-looking envelope tucked among the usual bills and junk. Her heart raced as she opened it, fearing it was another late notice or demand for payment. But instead, she found something entirely unexpected. The letter inside informed her that all her outstanding debts had been paid in full. Every credit card balance, every loan, completely cleared. Sarah stared at the letter in disbelief, her hands shaking. How was this possible? Who would do something like this? She quickly scanned the bottom of the letter, looking for any clues. There, in neat handwriting, was a note. "Everyone needs a little help sometimes. Daniel." Tears welled up in Sarah's eyes as the realization hit her. The man who had helped her on the side of the road, who had quietly fixed her flat tire without asking for anything in return, had somehow found out about her financial struggles and had taken it upon himself to change her life. She sank into her chair, overwhelmed by the kindness of this stranger. Daniel had done more than just fix her tire. He had lifted an enormous burden off her shoulders, giving her the fresh start she so desperately needed. In the days and weeks that followed, Sarah couldn't stop thinking about Daniel and the incredible gift he had given her. She never saw him again, and he never asked for recognition or thanks. His act of kindness remained a mystery, one she would never forget. With her debts cleared, Sarah was able to focus on building a better life for herself and Emma. She started saving, investing in her daughter's future, and even found the courage to pursue a career she had once dreamed of, but had put aside due to financial constraints. The flat tire that had once left her stranded on the side of the road had led to a life-altering encounter. And from that moment on, Sarah carried with her a deep sense of gratitude, not just for the financial help, but for the reminder that, even in the darkest of times, there are still good people in the world who are willing to lend a hand. Sarah's story is a powerful testament to the life-changing impact of kindness. A single mother, overwhelmed with financial burdens, found herself stranded with a flat tire on a rainy night, only to be helped by a mysterious stranger. What seemed like a simple act of generosity soon turned into something far greater when she later discovered that the same man had paid off all her debts, giving her a fresh start. His kindness reminded her that hope can be found in the most unexpected places, and sometimes the smallest gestures can change a life forever.